Good afternoon and welcome to today's video. Today we're going to be looking at the Sharp RD708 reel-to-reel stereo tape recorder. Now I've got a feeling that this might actually be quite a late reel-to-reel unit of the more sort of domestic quarter-inch format, given that it is actually a stereo unit. The unit itself is actually in surprisingly good condition. The person that I acquired it from had stated that it had been used literally in its life a handful of times. And this is pretty much how the unit came to me. So the reels were still attached. And the one thing I've noticed is as they have been sort of left over sort of a number of years, a lot of the tape had actually sort of become slightly stuck together. So to actually get it to work properly, it took a little bit of rewinding and fast forwarding in order to get the machine to work again. So one thing I did was I actually took off this stainless steel panel, and underneath that panel you actually get access to all of the belts. So what I did is I used some video head cleaner and clean up those two audio heads that you can see there. I think one of them is an erase head and the other one is a stereo audio head. And also cleaned up the pinch roller and also other items in the machine, such as the capstan flywheel. So the capstan flywheel actually is, I think it's aluminium looking at it, and it had got covered over the years in sort of a bit of aluminium corrosion. So what I did was I used a bit of sandpaper to effectively just sort of clean that up and get rid of some of the sort of corrosion that was on there. Now, I did actually go about replacing some of these belts. The belt to the right, I actually tried to replace some of a similar belt from a Hitachi VT11E VCR kit, because it looked very similar. It was that sort of similar sort of ribbon sort of type belt. But that doesn't actually work with a tape recorder of this sort of nature, because what happens is the motor, which is that central bronze coloured spindle that you can see, always spins. And the belt that's on there has sort of got this almost sort of fabric type material that allows a certain amount of slippage when the belt is in place. So if you actually put a normal belt on there, you immediately get grip, and what will happen is the reels will start to sort of spin forward, and you'll sort of not be able to go anywhere effectively. Now, the belt that's on there, when it's actually engaged, it engages enough to provide enough friction to actually allow the reels to sort of either fast forward or play in this case. And what I made that mistake, and I actually took the belt off and I put the original back on. So at some point I will need to source a belt kit for this machine, as you can see that rewind belt is a little bit slack. However, it still rewinds absolutely fine. You've also got this rubber idler, which I gave a bit of a clean up as well too. But to be honest with you, I think because this machine has had such little use, everything in there was in sort of pretty good shape. The machine had been stored in a dry place, albeit in an attic, but it was boxed up and stored in said attic for a number of years until I actually acquired it. And it comes with a range of bits and pieces, such as a pair of microphones which plug into those two DIN sockets you can see on the front of the machine, the speakers, which are obviously sort of make up part of the machine case when it's closed up, and some cables to connect those speakers up to a panel on the top of the machine, which obviously allows you to listen to whatever's on a tape. It's quite an elegant interior of the actual machine. It's quite a nice mechanism you can see here. You've got two brake brake shoes to the right and left of the right hand and left hand spools respectively, and they actually come away when you put it into either of the modes, and it is actually those brake shoes that actually keep the motor from spinning that sort of take-up reel. It is quite an interesting setup. It's quite sort of simple yet elegant, and it does seem to work rather well. The machine itself can actually record and play back in two different speeds. There is a selector on the left-hand side of the machine, which allows you to select different tape speeds. So obviously the higher the tape speed, the higher the fidelity sound you're going to get out of it. The actual clips of audio that I had are recorded in the lower tape speed. So we've actually gone over to my older camera here, because unfortunately I ran out of power on my new one. And what I'm doing here, and I've kept the audio in place, is I'm actually sort of trying to work out, after reassembling everything, why the machine would not play. And there is this little switch here, which if you press it down, the machine plays. If you don't press it down, it doesn't play. And what can happen is the tape can get underneath that, whereas the tape actually needs to be on top of this little switch in order for everything to work. So once we'd discovered this, I was able just to switch the mode on the machine slightly, just enough to open up the heads so I could move the tape. And there you go. Now the rest of this video... Oh, what am I doing now? Oh yeah, that's it. I'm just testing the fast forward and rewind. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get the recording working. So that's something I'll have to play with at some point in the future. But you've got the tape coming through there on the plastic leader. It has been spliced at various points in the past, looking at it. As I say, it's an old tape, and I do wonder what sort of quality playback you would get if this was a much newer reel of tape. Overall, the quality's not bad. If you have it set to stereo and you've got a mono recording such as here, you'll only get sound out of one speaker. There is a switch which allows you to switch between stereo and mono, and also there's another switch which allows you to turn the speakers on or off. On top of the machine there is a what looks like a record playback DIN socket, which I think is probably a bi-directional socket, which will either allow you to have recordings coming into the machine from an external source, or you can actually pump out recordings from the machine to an external amplifier rather than using the machine's built-in amplifier. Speakers themselves are actually not too bad. They're alright for what they are. They feel like they're sort of two-way. Sort of just feeling the indents and filter in the cloth. So it looks like there is a bass unit and also a sort of a tweeter unit as well. So what we're going to do now is we're going to leave the video here, and I'm just going to let this continue playing for your listening pleasure, so you can see what it sounds like and obviously what strange music I've managed to find on this particular tape. So, I'd like to thank you all very much for watching. If you found this video interesting, don't forget to hit that like button, and also consider subscribing for more upcoming fascinating hobbies. Thanks for watching.